All right, perfect. So thank you all for joining. I'm so excited that you came out to listen to this member talk. My name is Candice Kelly. I am the operations manager at Innovate Charlotte. I've been a member of Advent for about 6 months, and I wish they'd found me 6 years ago because this place is amazing because of people like you. It's always so fun. There's always new things to get into. And a little about my background. So with Innovate Charlotte, we're a nonprofit. And we create programs and events to help founders, high-tech founders, high-growth founders, anyone who's building a company that's scalable, and we try to help them be successful. So that's what we do. And what I do outside of that is I am a little bit of a nerd. And so I've always had a big passion for psychology. And so but I know emotionally I'm not strong enough to handle clinical psychology. So I went to school for industrial organizational psychology. And so I'm currently getting my master's there. And that's been a really fun experience because we get to learn about how people and people groups work in the context of organizations and work. And one of the more interesting things that we've learned that inspired this talk has been about organizational power and leadership and different models for thinking about that and how that plays out in the real world. And so I want to share a concept with you all. Hopefully you find it as fascinating as I do. And then I'd love to hear some of your questions and your thoughts. So one of the models of power comes from two psychologists back in the 60s, French and Raven, and they have something called the 5 bases of power. Have any of you heard of that before? Okay, I'll enlighten you. So they believe that there are 5 bases, or basically 5 different frameworks for which someone can obtain power. And so the first is legitimate power, right? Through a title or through something being ordained upon you, right? That's kind of the most common way we think about it. The second is coercive power, right? So think of like a gang leader or someone who has power through intimidation, maybe a dictator, right? Then there's expert power. So think of someone with a PhD or someone who's done groundbreaking work in a field, maybe a successful startup founder could have expert power. The fourth is reward power. So I think of like a parent with a child, right? You do this, you get this. Although rewards kind of tend to diminish over time, so it doesn't work very well in the long term, but in the short term for small tasks, that can be really useful. And then the one that caught my eye that was the most interesting and that really inspired this talk was something called referent power, meaning basically you're someone that people are attracted to. Sometimes it's called like charismatic power. You are likable, you are fun, you have high energy, and there's someone that people trust and want to be around. And you don't usually think of likability when you think of power, right? You think of like strict and you're tough, at least I do, right? I think of lay down the law. But what's interesting is in my classes, when we do a lot of case studies, and we found that 70% of organizational change initiatives fail. So when an organization wants to implement a new software, a new policy, a new leadership team, or a new direction, 70% of the time, it does not end up sticking. And they invest a lot of money, time, energy, and resources into it. And one of the main reasons, at least from organizational psychology perspective, is because there's no buy-in. People don't believe in the change. They don't believe in what's happening. And so they're not as motivated, they resist. There's actually stages of grief that people go through when organizations change. And we can see this play out in multiple different ways. But the strategy, at least back in the day and up until now, has been start with those who have legitimate power, those at the top, right? Get their seal of approval, and then just roll it out. And people will just do it because they're told. And we're finding that in more nuanced organizations that are geared towards millennials, they focus more on people that have referent power, the game changers. You can actually do a map of an organization and find out who has the most connections and target them and have communications with them, convince them of the argument and let them roll out the change and the success skyrockets. It's really, really cool. So why does this matter, right? This is a cool concept. It's cool for nerds like me, but for most of you all, you're not studying that. That's not, you may not be doing a change initiative right now. So why is this relevant? Well, I believe that the world is shifting right now, right? So we came from a time where having expert power, right, or having what I call information capital, right, was vital, right? Get your education, get your degree. That's an important way to be successful. Or having financial capital or legitimate power, right? Saying, okay, get an office, or if you come from money, right? Those are the quickest ways to be successful. And what we're finding in this information age and this digital age is that the rise of influencer culture, the rise of people who have following, people that build community, people that you want to listen to, that you trust, actually are becoming successful at much faster timelines and on larger scales. For example, my favorite story is Ryan's Toys from YouTube. Have any of you heard of him? A little bit? He is a 10-year-old boy who has to date 48 billion views, and he's made $32 million. And he started YouTube in 2015, and it's currently 2020. He has products in Target, he has television shows, he has multiple sponsorships with large corporations, and he is 10 years old. So
He started, right?
He
started when he was 10, right?
No, he is 10 now. He started as a child, yes.
Wow.
He started when he was 3?
Yes, on YouTube. His parents would help him, and he just opened up toys and would react, opening up toys, opening up eggs. And he started as a 3-year-old child on YouTube and has billions of views. Yeah. So I share that story to share that, not only is social capital and referent power a faster and legitimate way to wealth, but it's actually something that's very attainable, right? A 3-year-old child may or may not have any innate skills. They may or may not come from money. Ryan did not, right? But everyone has the ability to connect with people, to be liked, to build community, and to establish themselves as someone that is valuable because of the other people that they know. And so I wanted to share some ways that science has found and some ways that I found in my life to do that. So how do we do that? The first way, I believe, is to change the focus. I think a misconception I had when thinking about this concept was that, well, you need to start at the top and work your way down. And I think a lot of people feel that way. And so they spend time and energy, chasing, okay, I want to work here. Let me start with the head of the department. When in reality, starting with the gatekeepers can prove a more valuable long-term strategy. For example, and this is a negative example, but I still find it fascinating. Have any of you seen the Inventing Anna series on Netflix?
I read the article.
Yes. So Anna Delvey, it was a person who pretended to be someone of influence, someone who had financial capital. She pretended she was rich. And the interesting piece in her story was she would stay at these luxury hotels for free. And the way she did that was she would befriend the front desk person, right? Gifts, tips, compliments, become their friend, and they would tell her, oh, you need to talk to this person. You need to go here. Let me get you on this VIP list. And they would establish her as someone of influence. Now, obviously, that's a pretty negative example of it, right? But I'll give you an example from my personal life. So over the summer in high school, my parents, they have a vending machine business that they do on the side. And so when they first were starting up, they wanted to get their machines into a couple places. They had about 5 of them, wanted to get them placed. So my summer job was to go around and hand out samples. We had healthy snacks. It's gonna be great. It's 90 degrees in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I have my oversized suit and I'm ready to go. And what I found was, you go to the front desk, hi, I'm here, want to leave this with someone. They're a little confused. They don't know what you're selling. They don't really care. They're like, okay, thank you. And then you never hear from them again. And so what I did instead to land my first sale was I had been interning also at an advertising agency. And so I would go in the kitchen when people were getting snacks and like, oh, hey, I think you should try this. Hey, I think this would be great for you. And then at the front every day, hey, how's your day? And I just stop and linger a little bit. And it kind of caught her off guard. She's like, do you need something? Why are you here? No one really just stops to talk to me. I'm kind of the receptionist here. And we would talk and we would chat. And so one day I came and said, hey, I'd love to give this packet and information and some samples to the person responsible for vending. She's like, oh, well, actually, they're out today. And I said, oh, that looks like the CEO's office over there. Is it okay if I leave it in there? She's like, oh, well, I don't see why not. I mean, I don't think you do anything harmful. And so she showed me over there and I left the packet in our CEO's office. Now this is a small company, so it wasn't billions of people. And the next day he called back and gave us a meeting. And then the next month we got our machines there. So it works, it really works. The second thing I wanted to share about building social capital was a way to approach the conversation. I know sometimes folks can feel like, well, I don't know what to say. I don't really know what I'd want from them. I don't really know what my end goal would be. And I'm an alliteration person. So I figure celebrate, connection, and collaboration is a good framework to use when you're thinking about making those connections. So starting the conversation with some sort of celebration, right? Like, oh, I read this article that you read, or, oh my gosh, hey, I realize you're from the same hometown as me, go local team, or something that lets them know, like, I'm excited for you and what you're doing. So then it doesn't come across as, hey, you want to meet for coffee and tell me everything you know and help me in my career? And then connection, right? Figure out what are they trying to achieve and then make a connection that could be helpful to them. People are not usually expecting it and it may not always be something big, just, hey, I saw this article that could be of value. Or, hey, I noticed you're looking to hire an engineer. Here's the best one that I know. And then lastly, collaboration. I used to run a podcast when I was in college. And the way I would get folks to be guests on the show is I'd say, hey, I really love this story. I'd love to chat with you about, what parts of your story you'd be most excited to tell. So then it's not me asking, it's us creating something together. Then they feel more ownership of it and they're more likely to be excited about that partnership. And then lastly, I found it helpful to schedule follow-ups. So not letting it happen organically, but actually putting time in my calendar or putting a reminder to send Igor a thank you message in 2 weeks, right? Send Sam an invite to this event in a month. So then it doesn't just get kind of fall by the wayside, but you keep that communication going. So that's what's worked for me. That's what I wanted to share today. I'd love to know any thoughts, input, questions. I'm here for you.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Do you mind going over those quickly again?
Yeah, sure. So there's legitimate power, which has a title attached to it. So it's bestowed upon you. There's coercive power. So that's a negative power when you try to manipulate or use false claims to gain power. There is reward power. So if you have the power to give a reward to someone else, that can put you in a higher status. There's expert power. So if you have deep domain expertise, such as a PhD or like a founder of a company. And then there's referent power. And that's similar to social capital, when you're likable, you're charismatic, and people trust you.
So giving gifts to receptionists, is this rewards power or is it social power?
I think it's more of a referent power or social capital, because for rewards power, at least in this context, you have to have an authority, right? So it has to come from someone who has the authority to give the gift. So if there's a program within an organization where like, oh, you can give, $20 to someone else, that would be reward power. But if it's just from someone who doesn't have that level of authority, it's more of
like building the relationship.
reference. Yeah.
I have a question about this referent power, because to me, I understand that you're looking at it from a modern influencer lens, but we can also look at it from the cult perspective. And I've just read an article in Atlantic where they say that this is what is breaking democracy, essentially, because people find those charismatic guys in their niche, and they ignore arguments, they ignore everything, they don't even agree on what reality is because they like that person so much that they they become almost like this is the dominant power today and it's breaking the society. So
Jesus Christ was one.
yes, yes. So do you see this parallel? I don't know. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And my thought is that it lends itself more to coercive power in the sense that it is masquerading, it's manipulating. So I think, because true coercion, right, that's effective, kind of tricks you into thinking it's your idea, tricks you into thinking that you're an active participant, versus, although I do agree that there is the tendency for folks to get too attached on a specific individual or specific leader. I've had that argument with friends about like mega churches and mega church pastors, like where's the line between doing good for a lot of people and being a bit manipulative? And I don't know if it's truly definitive, but that is an interesting thought point.
Do you ever work with folks to figure out what their type of power is?
So I personally don't, but within my field, there's an exercise you can do. It's an organizational power map. And so you can go into an organization and map out all of the key players and say, okay, here's where the legitimate power is, but actually here's where the real referent power is. Here are the real information bottlenecks that go through everyone. You can do communication maps to see who actually communicates with the most number of people. Those folks tend to either have a lot of referent power or a lot of coercive power because they can withhold information from other groups. And we actually see that a lot, at least in the case studies, where the bottleneck is not a system, but it's a person.
For people who maybe have a lot of reference power in one community, how can that translate if they're placed in another area where they don't have reference power? What would that person do?
That's a good question. That's a tricky situation because referent power is subjective to the connections that the individual has. And so it's not necessarily as transferable as expert power, right? If you say I have a PhD, anywhere you go, someone's going to recognize you as an expert. It's more something that's built over time through connections. What they could do is have someone vouch for them. So someone from the previous community make an introduction. Here are the great things that they've done for us. Here's why we really trust this person. Here's why it's worth hearing them out. And that could be a viable way to start building them.
be curious if like anyone in the room has a story about like times that you've used like social capital to either like for your work or.
I mean, I can kind of relate to that just because, so I am new here. I'm actually new to the whole like small business world / world. So before I joined here, I was actually in a completely different field. I was a healthcare worker, and because of my passion for my hobby and just being consistent on social media platforms, they actually let me leave my job and do this hobby full time. So I feel like I mostly relate to reference power, but at the same time, it's different because I'm also learning more about all the other powers that kind of make up, me as a person. I really relate to that.
That's awesome.
And it makes really cool.
Thank you.
I feel like when we talk about social capital, there are two types. There's one that's earned through some hard work, and some people work on it, right, and they create those networks. And then again, you were talking about there are some people that walk into the room and everybody wants to talk to them. It's just granted to them, right? And I feel like those are the powers that are transferable regardless of the community. We all seen those people, we all experience that. When someone that just always has a crowd around them, no matter where they walk in, just how they talk, just what they emanate. And we can't really explain it and digest a lot of times, right? It's just the energy that they emanate. Just born with it. They come in and you just want to be near those people. It's that, I guess, magnetic or something, right? The field around them that just attracts.
I can share my story in terms of like Sam's question with Referent Power, because I moved from a different country to States in 2016. I didn't know anyone, I didn't have a job, any connection. So Advent has become my source of connectivity. And through Advent, I met my business partner, I made like connections. I was able to grow my network here in Charlotte through networking in this community. So I think this kind of organizations like that, they help you plug in into communities. What I'm finding right now, that what we are seeing in Charlotte, like communities opening up to newcomers, especially in the entrepreneurial space, the artistic space, this is happening like across the nation. There are always places that welcome someone new. Like Innovate Charlotte, will tell you, oh, you need to talk to those people. And we have members who can help you with that. Just finding those places and knowing that they exist, I think, truly empowering. And I just Googled co-working. What is it?
Perfect.
I'm curious, has anyone seen that Black Mirror episode about the social app where you rate each other? It's
Yes.
That's what this topic made me think a lot about different things, but I was thinking about that, and it's like the social capital, the referent power is.
Monetizing on social capital. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a wonderful thing and such an intrinsic part about humanity. We are social creatures. It's how we evolve to be in community with each other. But then there's this other aspect where it has become gamified a little bit for the benefit of corporations and other people. And I guess I have a hard time unpacking that and understanding when it stops being good and, how to continue to make it organic and, soul fulfilling and not just for money. It's not even a question.
It's interesting what you brought it, and actually there's that group, right, that's the age of the customer, that outlines how the marketing had changed over time and how it shifted from the provider viewpoint, where all the information used to belong to those producers of services and goods, right? And it was up to them what to say about their product. They could be selling snake oil, right? People will be buying it because it's a pretty advertisement. And how it completely completely shifted inside out where the customer actually owns the information now. They owns the rating for the company because it takes, they said, you know, it takes maybe years for you to create reputation can be ruined in 2 days through social media involvement if you do something wrong. And it works just like that, very differently. It now really is owned by the other side. That's why this paid advertisement comes in, right? Paid reviews, so people try to tweak the system to their advantage. But I feel like it's good actually, that there is that immediate feedback that you can hopefully find some true reviews and everything. Anytime you buy something, right, what do? You Google it, you find reviews, you go to Amazon, you do something else. Okay, and you'll always go for bad reviews, right? I don't know about you, I always do. So I always read what do the people say that are not satisfied with something for me to know just how objective all the positive reviews are. And if that's just a personal opinion, okay, it sounds like a good thing, right? And if you actually find something, that's what you're after. So we as customer want to know from those who give you negative reviews, what do they say?
That's true. And I think to your thought, Charlotte, I think there's something so genuine. Olga was mentioning, you know, people are magnetic. There's something so genuine about true, authentic connection where someone's not expecting anything in return. I like this influencer and business guy named Gary Vaynerchuk, and he has this model called, what is it, jab, 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 right hook, where it's, you know, you give, you know, at least 3 times before you ever ask for anything in return. And by asking, it means like ask for a like, ask for, you know, a favor, ask for any small task, right? You always want to have your ratio of giving 3 times more than you're asking for. And I think that the folks who feel more genuine are the folks that give more than they're asking either the audience or, you know, companies are asking for in return. Perfect. Well, thank you all. It is 5:03, so we are 2 minutes early.
We could have this conversation for another hour.
Thank you so much, Candace. And just so you all know, our Advent Member Talk is a monthly event that we do. It's the second Tuesday of every month, always at 4:30. Next month, we have Melissa Hollingsworth coming to talk about like storyteller. She's a photographer, a brand creator. And if you're interested in leading a member talk, please let me know. We can find a date and review a topic.